My name is Klaus M., and I'm the head of growth of UserSnap. The last 2 decades I was spent in the B2B industry, and I love web technology. Web technology probably because it's shaping the world so much. In my career, I founded several companies, and one got acquired by Atlassian. And if you're using probably Confluence, then you might use also our technology. My position in marketing and sales was always near the customer, and this is probably why I love the topic of user centricity so much. Today I'm the head of growth of UserSnap, and UserSnap helps companies to understand their customers by offering user feedback solutions. But this talk is today about how we found our way to customer centricity and how our product became a user feedback platform. So let's jump into the story.
Yeah, we started out with a solution for quality assurance and user acceptance testing. And we were quite good at that. And we offered a visual bug tracking solution. We built that product on a problem we had on our own in projects at that time. This is why it was quite successful. So you can imagine, or probably you know the situation when you got emails from some users and they were referring to, hey, this is not working. And you were like, what do you mean by this? Where should this happen? I have 100 of this on my site or my product. So our solution offered an annotated screenshot without any extensions, and users could show their issues and even draw on the screenshot. So this was pretty easy to do, and we got a lot of customers, and amongst them there were also big enterprises like Microsoft and Facebook, who are still with us today. And after some years of some success in growth, somewhere the growth curve flatlined. And this was the moment when we thought about a new product. So we came up with a new idea, and there was back then a fast-paced company called Intercom, and they offered customer service chats, and we thought about, hey, why not offering customer service chat with a visual feedback component? This must be the billion-dollar idea, and it will make us rich and famous. And we quickly jumped on a few customer calls, but it was more selling the idea, and the questions we asked were quite biased and leading back then. And we did some data analysis and looked in our system and saw, some customers are connecting our solution with a customer service tool. So there was, for us, there was intention of using that, or we also got some data. So yeah, let's say at the end of this small research, we were sure we are onto something. We gave it a cute name. It was named Alpaca, and even this nice logo. People are still wearing the t-shirts today. But when we launched the product, we couldn't really onboard the customers. Every time they asked for something different, and it never went align with the initial ideas we had based on our gut feeling. And we then had to take the really hard pill and to stop the product, as we saw that we got no adoption, and 1 year of development was wasted. So it was really a hard hit for us to take. And yeah, we had to start again with our visual bug tracking component. So we were still flatlining. But you don't have to fear that I leave you without a happy end on this story. So yeah, oops, we did it again. But this time we tried to do it better. So yeah, we talked again to existing customers, and we wanted this time to really understand their workflows and their pains. And so we did quite a lot of querying our customer database, seeing what they're using, making some statistics, seeing how often were they using which feature. And then we went into qualitative interviews. And this was not easy. You can try. Probably you experienced that, but for me it was really, really hard. And the good thing was that we had a guide from Harvard, and one person was already experienced in doing qualitative interviews. And so we educated ourselves and the team how to do them, and I had to rework my first questionnaire several times because often I had already the solution in mind, and my questions were then leading and biased. And we recorded each interview we did and wrote down the summaries with the key findings, so our team could easily see the what we got or what we found out in each of the interviews. And so by doing that, we improved our interviewing skills, and with every interview, I think we did a little bit better.
I want to share with you what we learned. So from this 32 qualitative interviews in which we did in 2 months, we learned that collecting bugs during development and Q&A was one workflow our customers did. They also collected customer feedback on new products, and they got feedback from their customers, especially SaaS companies, software as a service companies. And at that point, we thought that our solution is mainly for visual bug tracking, but we learned that it was also used for collecting customer feedback, and that was a turning point for us. So the turning point, how we looked at the product and the potential to expand into a new field of user feedback beyond the visual bug tracking. Another thing we learned was, and this was interesting, is like these findings from the qualitative interviews were surprisingly coherent with the responses we got from feedback collection we did on our websites and inside the products. So we reached out to customers by offering feedback widgets, little surveys, and in this time we got like 52 responses. Without mentioning any bugs and questions or complaints. So it was the pure feedback responses. 67% were using UserSnap as a customer feedback solution in a certain way, and 26 were using bug tracking or bug reporting when they had UserSnap in their product. So this was interesting for us, that the qualitative interviews brought a similar result as the little micro feedbacks we did on our product.
Maybe it's interesting what we used for our qualitative interviews, so we quickly shared it with you. So to make it easier to schedule any appointments, we used Calendly, which is super helpful, especially if you're working via different time zones. Zoom or any other online video conferencing software for seeing the other person. It's way more personal for me, or it was way more personal for me than just having them on a phone. And learn interviewing. So this was my big learning to avoid any biased or leading question. And write down the summary. We used Confluence for it to extract the key findings. So this was an important step these were important steps in our process here. What did we find out from diving into these interviews? And So we digested like four segments, and there were the software companies, which was probably the biggest segment. Then we had the agencies, the enterprises, and e-commerce. So these were the four segments using our product. And we saw that from the data we got that software companies were way stickier than the other segments, and probably because they used it for customer feedback in many ways, and the process of collecting customer feedback is an ongoing one, so they stayed with us longer than the ones who had projects. Next step was that with the learning we got from the interviews, we built out our first bunch of personas. So for the software companies, for example, there were product managers and customer service managers and sometimes customer experience managers. So we built up the personas and made our first assumptions. What gave us additional proof that we were on the right track were that some known companies, especially like Canva and Hawaiian Airlines, were using our product on their website to collect customer feedback. And so we knew we were onto something. Based on the learning, and as we saw that the product was way stickier with software companies, we wanted to dive into this segment. So for us, this seemed to be the most interesting one and most lucrative one. So what is important when you're a software company is the product development life cycle. And right now we're talking about product development life cycle of a digital product, and we spend more time on that to learn how this really works. A study showed that 93% of companies proclaim that they are using agile development methodologies. And so we look deeper into that. And the agile development process is essentially based on the lean startup method of Eric Ries. And this one you can see here. So it says like build, measure, and learn. But for us, and what we learned from the customer interviews, there was a lack of customer voice in it. And like we got so many insights from the customer feedback, and we wanted to build that into our everyday decision. So, customers told us so much about how they were using customer feedback to decide what to build next. So we wanted to expand the product development life cycle with listening. And we came up with listen, learn, build, and measure. This was how we wanted to introduce the needs and pains of our users into the development life cycle. We only wanted to build features that solve a pain and bring value to the customers. Okay, but how should we start to add this listening to our everyday processes? We continued with what already worked, so with interviews with our customers, but we decided to expand our research to people that were from the target audience but didn't know us. So we wanted to include potential customers who were trying our product and also the ones who were leaving us. So we wanted to expand the source of knowledge and reach out to different segments. And how can we do that? So we came up with the idea that we want to integrate feedback loops along the whole customer journey. So this is how our customer discovery journey started. So here you see the different stages of the customer journey where we integrated feedback loops. So when they were unaware of us, so they didn't know us, to when they became aware and they visited our website, to when they became prospects and leads and signed up for a free trial and tried out our product, to the point where they became customers, and also the moment when the sad moment when they left us. Yeah, these were the 5 main stages we were investigating. And so to jump into the first one, we reached out to key personas on social media, and especially it was LinkedIn, because the targeting of LinkedIn is amazing, and you can address the roles you were searching for, the industries, etc. And what worked quite well for us were personal messages, referring to something this person did. So we really investigated the personas or the persons we are addressing, and tried to make a as nice and as personal message as possible. And we asked them for interviews or little surveys. And the goal was to find out what their jobs to be done are in their roles as like product managers and customer success managers. And what are their current challenges. And we really got a variety of learnings from here. So for example, a product manager wanted to collect feedback, and he needed a tool to better analyze and categorize feedback to have more efficient feature prioritization. And out of these interviews, we doubled down on our personas, and we enhanced them quite a lot with a lot of challenges, motivations, and all of that was not like from what we thought they would do, but from real interviews. I added a little what we learned section to each of the stages, and hopefully you can take the one or the other idea for yourself. So like one thing we learned was that honest asking for help was quite successful. Yeah, we just were nicely asking and told them, hey, we need help. Can you help us, please? A little gratitude, like Amazon vouchers at the end of an interview, kept our interviewees happy, and we got a lot, or we could do a lot of follow-up interviews. So you're building up a base on people you can reach out also in later stages. And we got our hypothesis on our target personas, which we initially formulated after the first interviews. We could validate them in this step with the outreach to people who were not aware of UserSnap. The next step in the customer journey was when they landed on our website. So they were looking for such a solution. They knew us at least a bit. And what we did here is to find out what are the visitors looking for, what kind of solution, what challenges are they facing, and did they find what they were looking for. And we implemented non-invasive pop-ups messages with a face of one of our team members on it to make it really personal. And this was quite successful. So we got like 5 interviews per week, as far as I can remember, and this helped us to understand what these users were looking for. And additionally, we implemented little surveys, little feedback widgets on the website, with also an open question, and we got a lot of responses from there. And we found out, if they were finding what they were looking for, and also like if there were some things which they misunderstood, and so on and so forth. So a little bit before, I told you that we had a very similar outcome from the interviews and the micro feedbacks we got from these little surveys. And this was an interesting learning for us. And from that, we saw that with the little surveys, we got a way broader audience. So we had more significance on the outcomes. And this is helpful because you can only do a certain amount of interviews, but the feedback widget on your website works 24 hours. And this helped us to gather a lot of insights for what they were looking for and so on. So let's sum up what we learned in this stage. So asking simple questions can lead to many insights. make the messages you're sending out very personalized to get more engagement, and also ask for an email to close the loop. This is one thing I didn't mention before, but if you don't give the opportunity to add a communication method, then you cannot follow up. And let's say when you get feedback on the website on a message, then you cannot ask for a follow-up interview. So this was quite helpful to also increase the number of customer interviews with our feedback widget. The next stage, the customer journey, were the free trials. When users tried out our product and they were one step away of becoming customers. And we wanted to find out how they experience the value of our product and were they finding what they're looking for. It's a little bit like, people back then, it was like people walking into your store and they're taking a basket, they're wandering around in your store and looking at the product, reading the description, and 90% left. And we wanted to understand why and what made them experience the value. So we asked different questions in different moments of their trial to learn what their aha moment is. And the aha moment is the moment when the users, the trial signups, realize the value of the product. And this aha moment, we found out, was when they saw the first feedbacks coming in.
I don't want to tell you a story about a Wonderland where customers tell you exactly what you want to hear. Feedback is really hard to collect. So users are not coming to your platform to give you feedback. They have a job to be done. Unless you have a bug, then of course you get a lot of messages. But we wanted to learn about other topics than just what doesn't work for them. So that was the moment when we started experimenting with time-based triggers and sending feedback requests when they were doing something specific or after a special event. For example, when they were leaving the trial within 2 minutes after they started it, we asked for feedback. Or when they didn't install the feedback widget, which was essential to collect feedback on their platform. Or when they visited a special page about integrations, then we asked them for feedback on these specific occasions. And this really ramped up the engagement rate. So the rate where they are interacting with us. As far as I can remember, it was like more than 30% based on the click rate. So this was awesome.
One thing I don't want to leave out is that great customer service helped us to collect way more feedback. So we discussed with our customer success team to specifically go into user research questions when they were reaching out or having discussions with our users on the platform. And so we got a lot of feedback from that end, especially if you're helpful to your users. So with a great experience, they were way more likely to follow up with certain actions like agreeing to interviews or answering little surveys we were sending out. Let's jump to our learning section. So what did we learn from the sign up phase? So first, the feedback we collected brought us the aha moment, which was when the users saw the feedback coming in and interacted with them. When we were asking for feedback on the right time and in the right place, we got way more qualitative answers. And a good customer service is essential to ramp up the number of feedbacks you are getting. So let's jump into the next stage. Our prospects become our customers. And of course, we're still talking to them in this stage. They're jumping on the product train. And as far as I can recall, there were 30% of our customers back in the time that were coming from word of mouth. And it was important to find out if they will still spread the word and if they will still become ambassadors, and if anything is changing on this behavior based on our upcoming product changes. Then to measure if they are still loyal customers and still recommending us, we're sending out every 90 days a rating or a request for rating based on the NPS scala, which is the Net Promoter Score. And the Net Promoter Score is measuring the loyalty of your users to your product, and if how likely they are to recommend your product to their friends and colleagues. And then we are opening a follow-up question. This gives us the gold nuggets into what they are thinking at that moment and what their rating means. So I will show you this in a, let's say, more interactive way, because I think this makes it more fun. So this is something we provided also in our product. So it's a feedback button, and it showed every 90 days it opened up this widget, and it asked the question of how likely it is that this customer will recommend our service to their friends, to their friends or colleagues. And here is a rating from 0 to 10, and 10 is of course extremely likely. And then there is the follow-up question, and this is where you get like the insights. And I love your product. Keep going like this. Here, my email is already stored because I gave feedback quite some times with my private email, and I want to show you some extra feature we are providing, which is still the visual bug tracking component, as you can recall from the beginning. So we are offering this functionality, which is pretty cool because people can give you visual support of what they mean and can add that to their request. And this is how easy it is for customers to rate us when they're using the product. So yeah, of course, we also requested still customer interviews from specific segments. So we queried our databases and sending out little personal messages as we learned from the initial initiatives we did. And one thing I can remember is like how we came up with a feature based on customer feedback was when we interviewed a lot of product managers, and repeatedly this request came up that they need some central place to collect product ideas. And the product requests were coming from like so many channels, and they wanted to find have a central storage for them where they can work on them and categorize them and label them. And they were still doing that in Excel sheets, but it was like overwhelming because the Excel sheets don't give you this interactivity, and also the collaboration is limited with your other teammates. So the idea of an ideas portal came up several times, and so we dug into that idea and started creating a new use case which we called product feature requests. And this is like something we are also using now to collect our feedback requests, our product requests, product feature requests, and to give them a central place where the product management team of UserSnap can work on them. Let us quickly sum up what we learned so far in this stage. So NPS can be a very good source of feedback and understanding how loyal your customers are. The follow-up question, the open follow-up question, can bring you like gems or gold nuggets in qualitative feedback, and you can learn a lot about what this rating, this NPS rating means. And reaching out for interviews to your customer segments is a still very, very fruitful initiative and activity, and you should still, or we are still using that in this phase. Another stage, probably it's a sad stage, but yeah, I don't want to leave it unmentioned because it was so important for us. And this is the sad moment when your customers are leaving you. But it's also a moment of great honesty. And I think this makes it so important. So yeah, we extended like a long time ago our cancellation form with a mandatory field for the reason why. And surprisingly, like most of the feedback we got there was really, really helpful. And like only a few customers complained, or then churned customers complained that they had to fill out this form. And when we got all this churn feedback, so feedback from cancelled customers, we started labeling them and categorized them and clustered them. And from that, like from over 6 months of collected feedback, we got 81 times we got the reason for the project is over. And this was the reason for cancellation. And 50 times it was too expensive for them. And 31 times the product gave them no value. And when we followed up with them and asked for more insights on that, we learned that it was very often still connected with a project which was over, and so the development couldn't get the value out, the value diminished for them. This is what we learned in this stage, and the moment when customers churn, you have a great moment of honesty, use it. And when they left us, it was because of the project. So this helped us to verify and validate that our product will become stickier when we are not focusing on projects anymore. So we find something which is ongoing, and what is more ongoing than customer feedback? Okay, now we collected all these valuable insights from the different stages, and it was time now to take all the collected and processed user feedback and share the learnings with the team. So we created a presentation for an all hands meeting, and after we did that, everyone was like engaged and hyped. So they saw a new direction, and there was user research, so it was amazing. We have everyone on board. But, the next meetings, when we talked about the learnings, many teammates couldn't recall what they learned or what they heard. And we learned that the information was not really sticky. And we saw that we have to find a way how these learnings can be part of their daily routines. For us, we recognize that a single statement or a quote of a customer in their own words was so way more stickier than what we told in our learnings presentation. So we came up with a very simple idea. What if we just share the feedback items directly with the team via Slack? So we are using Slack, and when we just create an integration and send it to a channel, they can read it themselves. They see the ratings, they see the qualitative answers in real time, and they can learn from that. Yeah, and here you can see some of the comments. And you also see that the team started replying on these feedbacks they were coming in. And I can recall the moment when we had a heated discussion about if a feature should be built or not, and suddenly one of our developers, he came up and he recalled two customer feedbacks which gave us a strong intention that this feature could give value to these customers or help them. And this was the moment when we realized that implementing the customer feedback into the everyday's life is so powerful. Let me recap what happened so far. So we implemented feedback on all touch points during the customer journey. And some methods didn't work at each stage, so we had to use different use cases on each touch point. We brought the feedback into one system to have it in one place, and we also used labels to get statistical data out of qualitative feedback. So, and by integrating our feedback collection with other tools, we broke down the data silos and we introduced the feedback in the daily routines of everybody in the company. We learned that software companies are the right customers for us, and we deliver more value across like multiple stages for them, and they stayed longer time with us. So yeah, by focusing on the customer feedback, the churn went down and the lifetime value went up, which is great. I mean, so this resulted in that UserSnap transformed in a versatile user feedback platform for software companies. And we are now solving various use cases for customers. So I also wanted to share, as this summit is called the customer-centric growth, I want to share some numbers from what changed since we introduced our new platform. So our monthly new customers went up 100% in the last 3 months, and the monthly signups changed by 155% in the last 12 months. So these are quite nice numbers for us. Some last words on our transformation to a customer-centric organization. So in the beginning, our leadership decided where to go and what to build. The knowledge about the needs and pains of customers and the market was with us as leaders, and we just transferred them to the team. But over this period of time and this transformation, by involving the team in the customer feedback and by sharing it with them, we enabled our team to, make their decisions on their own, because they have everything they need to make these decisions. And this really transformed our company into a customer-centric organization. And the question, how does this help the customer, is a permanent companion now in probably every meeting where its topic is the product. So we changed the way how to make decisions with data and customer feedback.
What are the key takeaways I want you to walk away with? We ramped up our customer feedback. Then we integrated feedback loops along the customer journey. From the stage where the users were unaware of UserSnap and our solutions, to the moment when they were visiting our website looking for something and some solutions in the area of feedback. Then when they tried out our product, we asked for feedback, and when they become customers. And of course, the last stage, when they sometimes also left us, we tried to catch the honest moment of feedback. Customer centricity is more than a word. It's a process. And it needs time. It needs time to unfold. It needs time to expand throughout your team. And it needs time to expand through your whole organization. For us, it changed the way how we do decisions around the product. And our team is today enabled to hear the voice of the customer and to decide what to build next.
Our mission, make feedback matter. We believe feedback-driven companies provide the best products to people. We put customers and their stories first. We listen, learn, improve, evaluate, and we enable our customers to do the same. So the sharp observer might have realized that listen, learn, improve, evaluate is slightly different to the product development lifecycle I was presenting a little bit earlier. And this was because we expanded from a product development lifecycle to include a personal and a team development lifecycle. So make feedback matter starts with you. But this is another story. Thank you so much for watching my talk. I hope you could take some parts of it with you, and maybe it helps you in your own journey to customer-centric growth. If you have any questions, please reach out to me on my email or via LinkedIn. I would be happy to get in touch with you. Bye.